Hello, it's Tomlin here. So this is the weekly live Q&A session. So this one is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to explain to everyone what's going on. So people watching in the Harmonica School, I thought it would be quite fun to show people on YouTube what I do on Wednesdays with you with the live Q&A sessions. But don't worry, I'm going to go through all of your questions and answer them, and we'll do everything we normally do. Just wanted to share it a little bit, just for fun, just this once. So if this is your first ever Q&A session that you're watching, the way this works is I start off with a jam. I have my guitar here, so I'll get you warmed up. We'll play some blues. I'll invite you to grab your harmonicas, and we'll have a big harmonica warm-up, which is a lot of fun. And then I answer questions that have been sent in advance on the Harmonica Forum. And then I answer questions that have been sent live in the Harmonica Forum as well. Yeah, let's also have a look at and see who's watching. So say a little hello, tell me where you're watching from, that'd be cool. So we've got Dimitri watching from Odessa in Ukraine. We have Mike watching from Florida. We have Guest watching from Wisconsin. Paul watching from British Columbia. Very cool. Steve watching from South Yorkshire. Don's watching from Bellevue, Washington. This is very, very cool. All right. So let's have a look who's watching on YouTube here. So we've got a whole bunch of people. I'm not going to be able to say hi to everyone, but I'm going to say hi to a few people. We've got Joe watching from Iowa. We've got Donald watching from Colorado. Ram from India. We've got Robert from Holland. Who else do we have? We have Ricardo from Brazil. We've got Tom from Kentucky, Horst from Germany. Didi has asked if there's no chat in the forum. So if you're a harmonica student, there's definitely still chat in the forum. There's a little bit of an issue with it where it's not automatically logging you in, but you can still type your chats in there. We've got Jean watching from Limoges in France. Lois watching from upstate New York. Dirk said he's figured out how to get the chat, had to refresh the page. Excellent. All right, so let's have a little warm-up jam. So I'm going to grab my guitar, and I'm going to make this a little bit more interactive. So I want you to give me a key to play in. So what key? The first key that someone says, I will play a blues for you to play in. So we got D. All right, so we're going to play a blues in the key of D. People who requested G, I apologize, you just weren't quite quick enough. But there's always next week, and we might even be able to do something at the end of the session if we've got time. So we're playing a blues in the key of D. We'll do a 12-bar blues in the key of D, and I'll ask you, do you want it slow, medium, or fast? So I'll open this one up to YouTube for fun. So first person to say slow, medium, or fast, tell me what you want. And that is what we will do. So slow is the consensus. So we're going to do a slow blues in the key of D. So I will talk you through the changes. I can see loads of people are saying loads of different things, but it's going to be key of D. Slow blues, key of D. This is a lot of fun. So that's the key that the guitar is playing in. So that's not necessarily the key that you're going to play on your harmonica. I would recommend that you play a harmonica in the key of G in second position. Or you could even play harmonica in the key of C in third position. So play that to play key of D. So slow blues, key of D, grab your G harmonica for second position or your C harmonica for third position, and we're going to play a nice slow blues, and I will talk you through the changes. All right, starting on the 1 chord. Four chord. Back to the 1 chord. Up to the 5. 4. 1. 4. 1. 5. 1. Up to the 4. 1. Up to the 5. To the 4. Then back to the 1. 4. 1. Okay, you're now on your own. I'm not going to talk you through it. All right, hopefully you're feeling all nicely warmed up. I see that we have 124 people watching right now. So hopefully we just had a jam with 124 people. That would be super, super fun to imagine. All right, so let's have a little look at the first question. So this is an excellent question that I got from Jean, and yeah, this is a cool question. So Jean has said, "Hello, Tomlin. English is not my first language, so I'd like you to explain what is exactly the meaning of groove." Okay, so this is a huge, huge question, and it's something that we hear a lot about. We hear people saying, "Oh, it's important that you stay in the groove," but they don't necessarily explain what it means. So we've got playing in time, which is simply making sure that you are locking in with a beat. So if I put my metronome on, got an old-fashioned metronome here, I'm going to set it to 60 BPM. Grab a harmonica. So we grab a C harmonica. So if I play in time with it, get something like this. Just locking in like that. Okay, so that's playing in time, but I'm not playing in any kind of groove. Now, if I establish a feel, that's when we start thinking a little bit about this idea of groove. So I can keep the metronome going at 60 BPM, and then I can establish a groove. I'm not just playing in time anymore. I have a feel. There's this sense of movement. There's that nice. So not only am I playing in time, but I am grooving. I have a sense of feel and rhythm and flavor. So that's where this word groove comes from. It's that nice kind of repeating feel in music. So it needs to be in time. That's important, but it's more than just being in time. It's almost as if being in time is just a mechanical thing, and then grooving is something more soulful and musical. Great question, Jean. I hope that that helped you. It's kind of a hard question to answer. It's almost philosophical, but I hope I helped you there. Okay, so next question is from Tessia. Tessia has said, "Hi, Tomlin. Rather short question. What would you call a blue note, and why?" Now, this is also a fantastic question, and it's one that I think there's a little bit of disagreement over. So I'm going to give you my opinion on this. So a blue note is any note that kind of deviates from your standard major pentatonic or your standard major scale to make it feel bluesy. Okay, so if I play the major scale, I'm going to have to play an overblow. It might sound a little bit icky because I don't play this overblow very much, but just for the purpose of demonstration. So I'll play in second position on my C harmonica. I'm going to play a G major scale. So that slightly weird note was the overblow. So that's a major scale in second position. Now, there are notes that we're going to change in that scale to make it a blues scale. So it sounds like this. So what I've done, I've taken note number 3, and I've taken it down a half step. Okay, then I have added in a note after note number 4. I've added in a bent 4 draw, which is what's known as a flat 5. And then I've added in the clean 5 draw instead of that 5 overblow, which is taking that 5 overblow note and taking it down a semitone, which turns it into something called the flat 7. So what we've ended up with, we've ended up with a flat 3rd, a flat 5, and a flat 7, right? And to me, those are blue notes. Those are notes that that really make something stop being melodic and start being darker and minery and bluesy. So that, for me, is a blue note. I think the bluest note is that flat 5. That one, that note, that is the bluest note, in my opinion. Now, other people, I think, might think of blue notes a little bit differently. They might think about something like the 3 draw quarter step bend, so the blue 3rd, which is one of those kind of in between notes. It's not major, it's not minor, and that's another kind of thing to think about in the blues context. I'm a little bit more on the side, well, I'm a lot more on the side of the flat 3rd, flat 5, flat 7 for the blue notes. But I do think that those in-between notes are really interesting to experiment with as well. So they're kind of that kind of bluesy feel. So I hope that that kind of gives you some, at least a kind of jumping off point, Tessia. So I'm not necessarily giving you the strict answer. I'm giving you my opinion and hopefully some ideas for further research and looking at what other musicians think about it as well. So next question is from David. David has said, question on improvising over a quick change on the 12-bar blues. Where do we do the improvising? In the second bar of quick change blues where the quick change occurs. in your introduction what you mean by a quick change chord progression. Okay, so this is a good question. So let's start with what is a quick change and get that completely down. So I'll grab a guitar. It's probably a little bit easier for this. So a standard 12-bar blues, I'm just going to play in the key of G, has 3 chords, 1 chord, 4 chord, and 5 chord. And we play that 1 chord for 4 bars. So we do 1. We're going to play a really fast 12-bar blues. Then we do the 4 chord for 2 bars. Then we do the 1 chord for 2 bars. Then we do the 5 chord for 1 bar, 4 chord for 1 bar, and then 1 chord for 2 bars. So that's your most basic version of 12-bar blues. You can do other things with it. You can add turnarounds, 2-5-1s, all sorts of interesting things, but that is your basic 12-bar blues. And the most common variation you're going to come across is something called a quick change or a quick 4. And all that means is that instead of playing 4 bars of the 1 chord at the beginning, instead of doing this, you play 1 bar of the 1 chord, then you play 1 bar of the 4 chord, then you play 2 bars of the 1 chord, and everything else after that carries on from bar 5 as it normally would. So you get this kind of thing. 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, and then everything is as usual. Now, a lot of people get really worried about how to deal with improvising over a quick change blues. They think, right, I need to do something clever over that 2nd bar where we go to the 4 chord. And I would actually argue that you need to be even less clever, because what the guitarist is doing is, or the pianist or whoever is creating the chords underneath you, they're bringing in the interest. And you, as the harmonica player, you don't actually have to do a whole lot for it to sound really cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play, I'm going to do something that I've done for the 2nd time today, for the 1st time in a very long time. I'm going to play a little bit of rack harmonica. And I have to tell you, I am terrible at rack harmonica. So I'm doing this live on YouTube, and I'm painfully aware that it's going to sound awful, but it's the easiest way for me to demonstrate what I want to demonstrate. So if I play a fairly simple lick over 1 chord. Now, if I do that over the 4 chord, I think that because the guitar is changing the harmony underneath, it makes the lick sound different and more interesting. So actually, you don't need to do anything too clever and follow the chord changes. I can demonstrate it even more simplistically. I can just play a single note. So if I play the 2 draw, so me changing the chords on the guitar was all the interest that we needed, rather than following the chord changes and doing something like, which works, but it's a bit obvious. So that's how I like to approach the quick change blues. Doesn't mean that you have to do it every single time like that. This is just an idea for you to play around with. But I hope that answers your question and gives you a little bit to think about with that quick change blues. The main thing is to not get freaked out by quick changes, because they're very common, and it doesn't change a huge amount. But you do need to know what's going on, just so that as a backup musician, you're doing the right thing. All right. Okay, so next question is from Dimitri. Dimitri has said, "Hi, Tomlin. I've already figured out, with the help of your video, how to play the flat 5 blue note in 3rd position, but so far only in the lower and middle octaves. Could you help to learn how to do it in the upper octave, holes 8 to 10, if that's possible at all?" So you'll need an overdraw for that, which I don't think I can do, Dimitri. Let me think about this. No, I'm not going to be able to do an overdraw. You're going to need an overdraw, I think, on a 9 draw. I might be wrong. 9 draw. Yeah, it's not there. So if you wanted to play that flat 5, which is the 3 draw 1.5 step bend, or the 6 draw half step bend in 3rd position, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure, the 9 overdraw. And I don't play overdraws, Dimitri. I'm sorry, I'm leaving you hanging high and dry with that one. That doesn't mean you shouldn't work on the overdraw. It's not something that I've found particularly important. But I also know how frustrating it is if there are notes that you want that are missing. So if there's something that you're trying to play, there's a melody where you need that note, then I see the value in learning it, definitely. But don't learn it just for the sake of learning it. That's my 2 cents. Be aware of why you're learning to play these other notes, because there are tons and tons of great harmonica players who don't overblow or overdraw or anything like that, and play amazingly. So be aware of the reason for learning those notes. I think it makes a great deal of sense if you're thinking, oh, I really wish I could hit that one note because I want it for this melody, then it makes sense. But if you don't have a use for it yet, it's just kind of completeness, then think a little bit more before you start practicing it and before you start learning how to do it, because it might not be that useful. Okay, right. Next question. We have Michael saying, hi, Tomlin. I've been meaning to ask you, when I practice, I go over many things: scales, warbles, wahs, octaves, whole skipping, and more, usually in about 30 minutes. Is it better to just work on 1 or 2 things, or am I good with what I'm doing? Gee, that's a really good question, Michael. I'll give you my opinion on this. So, well, I'll give you what works for me, and I'll kind of temper that with a thought. So everyone learns differently, but I personally believe that it makes more sense to completely hone one thing at a time, or maybe 2 things at a time, rather than practicing everything simultaneously. So, for example, at the moment in my practice sessions, I am working on 2 things for my technique practice. So I am working on, this is going to sound horrible, but you can hear how horrible it is. So this is an F harmonica. I'm working on doing all of the bends up and down the harmonica, all the semitone bends, including the blow bends. Now I'm very, very weak on the high blow bends, especially on an F harmonica, because it's quite difficult for me to hit them. So that's what I've been working on for the last month. This kind of thing. Specifically focusing on and trying to get the bends up at the high end. So I've been working on that for the last month. And then the other thing that I've been working on for the last month is sustaining nice, relaxed, held notes for 8 beats over octaves. So this kind of thing. So I've got the metronome set to 60 BPM, and I'm practicing doing this. So what I'm doing here, I'm practicing my breath control, and I'm also practicing making sure that there's nothing in the system, tongue, jaw, throat that is causing the note to bend, okay? So I'm practicing just keeping it nice and open and checking to hear if I hear anything like this. You hear how there are little changes in the pitch and the tone of the note. So I'm trying to get nice, consistent, strong notes. And it's improving. The breath control is improving. The consistency of the clean notes is improving. But I've been working on that for a month, and I'll probably continue working on it until the end of the year. And that's kind of going to be my primary focus, those two things, and a little bit of tongue fluttering. So I want to move on to working on some tongue fluttering in the next month or so, to kind of really go deep on that. But that's what I'm focusing on in my practice for the technical side of things. And then I'm practicing, so I break my practice down into 3 sections: technique, repertoire, and improvisation. So what you've spoken about, Michael, doing scales, warbles, wahs, octaves, whole skipping, to me that wouldn't work for me. There are too many things, and I would really want to go deep on 1 or 2 of those. So what I suggest you do, Mike, is try my way for a couple of weeks and see how that works for you. I think you'll notice much better progression in your playing if you really focus and go deep, rather than having a kind of wide overview of a bunch of different things. I hope that helps give you some food for thought. All right, so next question is from Jerry. Jerry has said, "Good day, Tomlin. Have you tried any of the mini harmonicas like the Zeidel Big 6 or the Kongsheng Baby Fat? 7 holes. I'm so very seldom playing up there beyond 7 that they make some sense." I've never tried one. I think they look super cute. I think they look a lot of fun. But no, I've never played one. I don't like the idea of being limited, but I'm incredibly weak up in the upper octaves. So that's something that I'm working on in my improvisation practice. I'm practicing improvising up in the upper octave and getting more comfortable with that. So yeah, it makes sense in the short term. I think they're a lot of fun to carry around, but I think it's worthwhile learning to play in the upper octave. And Jerry, I'm going to be adding some stuff into the Harmonica School about upper octave playing, because I've got loads and loads of ideas now that I've been practicing it for the last few months. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. All right, let's have a look at the next question. So this is a great question. So the question is, this is from guest 3971. What is the common chord progression for an 8-bar blues? Which is amazing, an amazing question. Because if you think about it, we talk about the 12-bar blues, and everyone says learn to play a 12-bar blues, but no one says learn to play the 8-bar blues. And quite simply, it's because there is not a consistent 8-bar blues that people are going to know. When you say, hey, we're going to do an 8-bar blues to the band, the bassist will play one 8-bar blues that they know, the guitarist will play one that they know, the pianist will play one that they know. It's all going to be slightly different. So there are some common ones. So there's the Key to the Highway one, which goes, I got the key, 1 chord to the 5 chord, 4 chord, build out and bound to go, back to the 1 chord, leave this town running, 5, walking's most too slow, turn around. So that would be one variation of the 8-bar blues. Another one that I did recently with the band is Bring It On Home to Me, Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee, although I think it was Sam Cooke originally. But that's have you ever 1 chord change your mind, 1 chord change your mind, 5 chords. Oh man, this is so frustrating. 1 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord, 1, turn around. So that's quite different from the Key to the Highway 8-bar blues. And then there's the one that the Rolling Stones and Little Walter use in Just Your Fool. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but basically that there isn't a 8-bar blues. So you kind of need to know what the structure is for the particular one that you're wanting to play. So yeah, that's a great question, and I'm sorry that I can't give you some really good answer that this is the 8-bar blues, but there isn't one. All right, let's see. So any questions? All right, so it was Ton who asked that. Okay, so I have answered all the questions that are over in the forum. So I'm going to go and have a look on YouTube and see what's going on in there. I can see we've got a lot of chat happening. Let's have a look, see if there are any questions that I can answer. I'm scrolling up. We've got a really long list. This is very cool. So the first question is that Hohner sitting on top of a sausage. So this is a question I get asked a lot about that picture with my harmonica on some red sausage-like substance. So I live by the sea, and we have a lot of nautical things kicking about, including some chains that have been painted red. I thought it'd be fun to take a picture of my harmonica on there. So that's what it is. Hope that makes sense. All right. Let's have a look for next question. Okay, so William Livingston has asked a question. Can you do a comparison between different harmonicas? I keep seeing these deals online, but I don't want to buy crap. Okay, this is a great question. So I've not played a ton of harmonicas. I have a few that I really enjoy. So I can give you a little bit of an idea of what I've discovered with what I do play. So I play Hohner, Suzuki, and Zeidel. I don't have any affiliation with any of those brands. I just enjoy playing them. They all have a different feel. So I think that's the most important thing for you to think about, is what kind of feel suits you best as a player. So I find that the Hohner generally have softer metal for the reeds, so softer brass, and that means that they're very flexible. You can get kind of nice vibrato happening on them. So let me grab a Hohner harmonica. After I've said all that, I can't see any in my case. Okay, so here we've got Hohner Marine Band, and you can get nice kind of loose vibrato. I find that physically it's a very easy harmonica to play, but because the material is a lot softer, if you happen to be quite a hard player or an aggressive player, then they tend to wear out quite quickly. The reeds tend to go out of tune and even break. So if you're a slightly firmer player, then something like a Zeidel 1847 or a Suzuki Manji is quite a good next thing to try out. So the 1847 I only got into really recently, but I'm totally sold on them. So here's an 1847 in the key of B. And they're really nice in terms of the quality and the sound, but they do wrestle with you a little bit. They have stainless steel reeds. You feel like you're playing it, you know. The Hohners, they kind of play themselves, but the Zeidels, they need a little bit more control, a little bit more aggression. And then the Suzuki's kind of in between the two. So the Manjis and the Olives, they're very similar harmonicas to each other. I find that they're a little bit firmer than the Marine Band, and a little bit looser than the Seidel. They're very unforgiving. So I find that if a student doesn't have really dialed in technique, that the Suzuki won't make you sound good, and it'll fight you. So you'll hit notes and they'll sound very strained. So let's grab, this is a Manji in, let's get a Manji in the key of C, Suzuki Manji in the key of C. So if you're kind of straining on the note, it's just going to not happen. So I think the marine band's the most forgiving, but you need to be quite gentle with it so that you don't wear them out. The Seidel you can be very meat-headed with, and it'll take it. And the Suzukis are a little bit more fastidious. They're quite precise. I hope that helps you, William. That's just my findings, and how I feel, and how I've watched students. I've watched students break honers years and years, and I think I've had one student break a Seidel, and that was just a quality control issue, which was kind of a real surprise for everyone. All right, let's have a little look at the next question. All right. Okay, so this is a really good question, and one that I think is probably going to lead to more questions. So Rickles has said, what is the most simple way you can explain first, second, and third position? What holes are included in each position? So first, second, and third position, all 10 holes are included in all 3 of those positions. Okay, there are 12 positions in total, and you still include all 10 holes. So it's not a question of which holes you're playing. What it's a question of is what your home note is, and then that dictates what everything else, where everything else lays out for you. So I think probably the easiest way for me to demonstrate this is if I grab a C harmonica in the key. So key of C. If I was to play starting on the 2 drawer, that means that I'm playing the G note on the 2 drawer, which means I'm now playing in the key of G. But whatever harmonica I was playing in, the important thing is that my home note is the 2 drawer, which means that I'm playing in second position. Now, in second position, I can choose to play any scale that I want, or any scale that I can play. So I could play the minor pentatonic scale. Okay? Or I could choose to play the major pentatonic scale. Okay, there's a little bit of overlap. There are some notes that are in both scales, but I've started with a position. That's my home note. And then I have chosen which scale I want to play. And what that choice means is the sound and the feel that I want to get. So if I'm playing a minory melodic tune, a minory tune, not a melodic tune, then I'm probably going to err more on the side of the minor pentatonic. The major pentatonic won't sound good over a minor key. But I could have chosen, instead of playing on my C harmonica in second position to play in the key of G, I could have picked the harmonica that allows me to play the key of G in third position, which would be my F harmonica. So there I can still play my minor pentatonic scale. I can play the major pentatonic scale. This is going to take me a moment to think about because my brain really hurts when I try and do this stuff. So this should be. So I can do major pentatonic in third position. I don't do that very much. The notes don't lay themselves out in the nicest way, which is why I would maybe choose to play the key of G in a different position. So that's an interesting thing to think about. What position you're going to play is going to be dictated a lot by what you're trying to do. what kind of phrases you're trying to play. If you're doing a lot of chugging, second position works really well because the notes are laid out in such a nice way that you can play chords that fit in second position really easily. Whereas doing that in third position is quite difficult. Doing it in first position doesn't really work. So first, second, or third position, they just refer to where your home note is. Then you decide on what scale you're going to play, and then that's where you go. I hope that gives you a little bit of an intro to the position thing, Rickles. One thing I would say, people really, really, really worry about positions, and everything becomes really clear when you start playing with other musicians and you start playing with backing tracks and you start experimenting with, okay, my backing track is in this key, but the harmonica I need to play is a different key. What's that? Do that rather than learning what positions are before you do that. It'll make a lot more sense in practice. So I hope that helps. Okay, so let's see. Next question. I'm just going to check in the forum, make sure that I'm not missing any questions in there. All right. So Jerry has followed it up with just the notes that sound good. So yeah, when you're in a position, you want to be playing the right notes for that position, but they're going to be across the whole range of the harmonica. They might be difficult to play. So you've seen me struggle to find certain notes because I've needed overblows or overdraws to play them in certain positions. So that's a reason that you might choose a different position. All right. Okay. There's a great follow-up on this, which is from Michael. Michael has said, I've been learning position 1, 2, and 3. Is there a big need to learn position 4 to 12? The answer to your question, Michael, is kind of like what I was saying to Dimitri about playing the overdraw. It only makes sense for you to learn a different position if you need a different position. Me personally, let's say 80% of what I do is in second position, 15% of it's in third position, and 5% of it's in first position. I've started practicing more first position lately because I'm enjoying the sounds and the phrasing that I'm getting in first position. But you get so much from those three positions that I don't think that you'll need to learn anything else unless you start thinking to yourself, oh man, I wish I could do this. The other positions will make sense if you find yourself in a situation where there's something missing or there's a note layout that isn't very effective for what you're trying to do, or if you're playing more complex types of music. So if you're playing jazz and you're trying to play over more complex chord progressions, then you might need to learn some more positions. But if you like blues harmonica, first, second, and third position is all you really need. That's how I feel. And if you want to explore more, then do that. But you don't need to. I think it makes a lot more sense to really, really know a couple of positions really well, rather than knowing all 12 positions okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So Patrick has said, what do you think of Lee Oskar harps? So my first harmonica was a Lee Oskar, and I absolutely loved it. There are just a couple of little issues that I think it's helpful to be aware of. The Lee Oskars are notoriously difficult to overblow on. So if you're interested in adding overblows into your playing, then the best thing to do is to get a Hohner and set it up really nicely. So get a Hohner crossover or something like that. The Lee Oskars are really tough to overblow. Not impossible, just tough. The other thing is the Lee Oskar is a great harmonica, but they're quite unforgiving on the low bends, especially the 3-draw whole step bend. So when you hit that 3-draw whole step bend tends to feed back for a lot of people, and that's because of something called torsional vibration. So that means that instead of your reed just vibrating up and down, as it should naturally, a kind of diagonal vibration comes into it, and that gives a horrible screeching sound. It's something that you can practice to avoid. You get more and more relaxed with your playing and more stability with your bending position. But it's definitely something that the Oskar has a tendency to do. So you need to be a better player to really, really hold that note and lock it down. But I think they're great harmonicas. I don't have anything bad to say about them. Just be aware of the weaknesses. Every harmonica has a weakness. Every harmonica has a positive, as long as you're getting a decent pro quality instrument, which is what's wonderful about harmonica. You can get a good quality instrument for not an insane amount of money compared to one of these. Guitars are expensive. If you want to get a really good one, a good harmonica is nowhere near that kind of price, which is brilliant. Okay. Let's see. Right. So this is a great question, and one that I think is really important to talk about. So Eng Rodriguez has just said, vibrato! Give advice for playing a good vibrato. So vibrato is such a big project. It's not something that you can get. There's nothing that I'm going to say to you right now that's going to make you play a great vibrato right now. But I can set you on the path if you're just starting out on vibrato playing. And that's to start with tremolo. So start with a blow tremolo on a whole, like the two blow C harmonica. And all I'm doing is I'm going What I'm doing there is I'm making sure that I'm playing it in time. And I'm doing it using 16th notes. So that's 4 pulses per beat. So I'm doing okay. So that doesn't sound like vibrato. It doesn't sound very nice. But what that's giving you is it's giving you a solid rhythmic pulse. And when that feels really, really comfortable, move it around the harmonica. Then try it on the draw note. And then as you start to do that and you start to relax more and more, then you'll find that your tongue, you can pull it up into a bending position, but not hold it in a fixed position. Instead, it's kind of in a bending position, but it's pulling back and forward, and you get the that nice vibrato sound. But I've just kind of condensed what should be 2 years of your practice into 2 minutes. So that's what you need to go out and do. You need to first work on getting that rhythmic pulse in time. Super important. Do it with a tremolo rather than a vibrato. And then the vibrato is bringing the bend into it so that the pitch is going up and down rather than just the volume. Okay, so that will get you started with the vibrato, and you just got to persevere with it. And with all of these things, the key is relaxation, having a nice light touch. Super important. Okay, let's have a look at questions. More questions that there's so many good questions. Let's see. I see that we've got some French people watching. They're saying nice things. Merci André. Je vois que l'anglais est un peu difficile pour vous quand je parle vite. Sorry, I can't do everything in French. it's not fair on everyone else who's watching. But if you have any questions, just send me a little email and I might be able to help you. I do speak French, so yeah, my lessons aren't in French though, not yet. Okay, so I see that Andre is saying the bend on the 3-hole is difficult when the harmonica is not custom. See, I don't know. I personally don't. I'm not a big fan of custom harmonicas. I think that custom harmonicas. Joe Falisco said this. He put it in a really great way recently. Where he did a Q&A session in my Harmonica School forum a while ago, and someone was asking about custom harmonicas. And if you don't know this, Joe Falisco is reckoned to be one of the greatest harmonica customizers on the planet. And someone was asking about buying custom harmonicas and whether it was worth it. And Joe Falisco said, no, it's not worth it. And went on to say that when he started customizing harmonicas, the quality control at the time, I think this was in the 90s, it wasn't great. You didn't get awesome harmonicas like we do now. And so getting a custom harmonica was really helpful, as that's why he started customizing them. But now, out of the box harmonicas sound brilliant. Out of the box Honers, Suzuki's, Zeidels, they're all really easy to play. You'll see that I have some custom combs on my harmonicas, but even then, they don't make a huge difference on a good harmonica. They make a huge difference on a not great harmonica. But I mean, loads of harmonicas, even out of the box, are just spot on. And I've never played a custom harmonica that has made me a better player. I've never played a custom harmonica that completely changed my life. There are some that are very nice. I remember this was a slightly weird moment, but I was sitting with Christelle Berton a few years ago, and she just kind of forced her harmonicas on me and she said, play this. And she had these beautiful Anthony Danica custom harmonicas, and they were lovely, but they were solid brass, really heavy, and they just felt nice. They felt very professional, but I didn't feel like they made anything massively easier to play. I think you should be able to do anything on a standard harmonica. You might need to do little tweaks to make them a little bit easier to overblow or overdraw, but I think it's worthwhile spending time learning how to do those techniques before you try tweaking the reeds, so that you know what the issue is. I think that's an important thing, because it's, take it from me, I spent a long time tweaking harmonicas and customizing them before I learned how to overblow properly. And I could get an overblow after I did that, but then after a while I started to really learn how to do an overblow properly, and then I noticed that I didn't need those tweaks on the harmonicas, and they were just a crutch that wasn't actually helping my technique. But that's my opinion. Okay, let's see. I think we've probably got time for one or two more questions. So I'm just going to have a look through it and grab a couple of questions. Let's see. So William has said, is playing different harmonicas in different keys the same idea as using a capo and a guitar? Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. So if I play like this, I'm playing in the key of E. So I would have my A harmonica in second position. I'm going to do some rack again. You can laugh at how bad my rack playing is. I don't mind being laughed at. All right. So if I then put my capo on the 3rd fret on my guitar, that puts me in the key of G if I do the same thing. So I'll then pick up a different harmonica, a C harmonica to play in the key of G in 2nd position, then I'll do exactly the same thing. Sorry, it's so bad. I hate playing both at the same time. It's something I wish I was great at, but I'm not. Anyway, you get the idea. So yes, William, that's a great way to think about it. It's like using a capo. Okay, I'm going to do one more question. I gotta say this. Coca said, "Warning: don't harp and drive. I was stopped recently for texting while driving. I explained that I was just practicing harmonica. He burst out laughing and said he played too and let me go." That's brilliant. What a cool story. But yeah, please don't play harmonica and drive. I have so many students who say this to me, like, "This is where I practice." And I was like, no. You should be playing with 2 hands. That will give you a lot more control over the instrument. Plus, it's not safe. Okay, so great question from Dogfish Dave, and this will be the last question for the night. So Dogfish Dave has said, "I'm finding it quite difficult to get a good cut for that really condensed wah-wah sound. Are there any tips?" So I have 2 tips, 2 things to think about. So first of all, the easiest way to get a really good cut on the harmonica is kind of down to what kind of harmonica you have. So let me grab 2 harmonicas to demonstrate this. But I'm going to give you a solution that works no matter what harmonica you have, but I just want to explain the easiest way for starters. So if we look at this harmonica, so this is a Suzuki Manji, and you see that on the side of the harmonica, it has holes. So those are called side vents. And what those do is make the harmonica really loud and very bluesy. It's a great sound. Okay, brilliant. But makes it quite difficult to get a very good seal around the harmonica. Because if you do the kind of traditional grip, which is kind of like this, then you're not covering up the vents at the end. So you can kind of get an okay wah, but it's not really deep. Whereas if you have a harmonica where the vents are closed like this, then it's much easier to get a really deep wah from having a really big cup, a really tight cup. So that's one thing. That's kind of like the really quick, dirty way to get a really good wah. Make sure that you've got closed vents. But that doesn't make me feel very happy, because I know loads of great players who get great harmonica wah with open vented harmonicas. So I asked Ronnie Shellist about this during our lessons, and he showed me how he does it, right? And this is absolutely killer. I've been working on it. It's a completely different hand position, still not completely dialed in, but I'm very pleased with it as a premise. So what he does is he covers up with his 2 fingers on his right hand, the end of the harmonica, and he locks the left-hand side of the harmonica further in like this, and he blocks the front of the harmonica with his cheek. And then you get more of a deep wah with a harmonica that has open vents. Whereas if I did my old way of playing it, it's not quite as deep. So those are a couple of ideas for you to think about. But it takes practice. The hand wah is one of the most overlooked things for people to practice. And you need to dive deep on it and get obsessed. So yeah, great question. All right. Let's have a look. So that's going to be the end of our Q&A session. Thank you so much for all of our guests who've joined us. So everyone on YouTube, I'm not going to be doing this every week because this is for my students over in the Harmonica School. But it's been really fun having you join us, and I've enjoyed answering your questions. Yeah, if you want to find out more about the Harmonica School, just click on the little link in the description below. I do this every week, plus I get guest teachers doing it. So our next guest is going to be Lee Sankey in a couple of weeks. And all my lovely students in the forum, thank you for being so gracious about us having a bigger class this week. You've been wonderful, as always. I'm just having a look, see what everyone has said. Yeah, there's some good ideas about overblowing Imart. I think, yeah, when you start overblowing, you get squeaks and squeals, and then you build up the strength, and it gets refined and becomes more solid. So it's definitely a long process. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next week in school if you're a student, and I will see you next week on YouTube for just a normal video, not a live one. And yeah, take it easy. Happy harping.